Hello and welcome to Good Games Well Played, episode 204. I'm Clint, aka JCM. With us this week is Isley,
Yo,
MSI.
Hello.
Not too much to talk about this week. Like I said, we're in that quiet time until we get around to more of that June timeframe with Summer Game Fest. And I think Xbox has a showcase planned in June as well. They talked about. So this week we just got a lot of sales figures. We got updated sales figures for Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Apparently hit 2 million copies sold after 12 days, which is good news because I want to see it do well because it is a good game.
Well
Also saw
deserved.
that apparently the soundtrack has topped Billboard classical music album charts as well. Apparently
if
18 million streams in 2 weeks.
if this game doesn't win best soundtrack, I will riot because I genuinely think it is like
It's going
some
to.
of it. It has to. This is some of the best video game music I think I've heard in the past decade.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Reminds me a lot of like hearing Journey's soundtrack for the first time. Like just like man, it's more than what it is. Like, oh, this is real good.
I don't even know what to compare the soundtrack to. The Last of Us had some like really iconic. The first one had some like really iconic music to it, but it only had like two or three kind of iconic songs. And then, God, I don't know what else. They just really
Doom.
nailed it.
Yeah, like there's some great soundtracks out there.
I
But
get a
yeah, this
very Yoko Shimomura, like Final Fantasy 15 kind of vibe to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like because usually RPGs, like I think like Persona 5 specifically. That's the only one I played. Like that soundtrack I know really well. Like I have a couple of those songs like on my video game playlist, as do like Price and whatnot. But yeah, this one I think they're definitely gonna win. And I'm curious, like obviously the in-house, like it'll be nominated for sure, so they'll play like a medley of music. But I'm curious if they perform live at the Game Awards, what song will they perform live? Because I feel like, Alan Wake 2 made sense. Some other stuff from other games makes sense. Like, oh, it's the most popular. Well, like, there's a lot of really good stuff here. We're not even done with the game. I'm
They
like,
It probably would just be the Lumiere song, the
yeah,
like
I guess. Because
really
everybody
iconic
would have
one.
heard it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's also the one that when they've done the marketing material, they've I'm blanking on the woman's name, which I feel bad about, but that's the one where they've always shown her singing it live with the guitarist and recording everything in like a live studio session. So I feel like that's the one they would go with, but I sent Zaya my pick for songs last night of the one I was trying to go down a rabbit hole and find, and you haven't heard it yet, but there's like I don't know. I think
You
that
said
some of the
you said
like
the
number.
boss fight, right? At in the boss fight at that manor.
Oh
That
yeah,
that
you
one.
have heard that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that one would be up
Yeah.
on my list. The Unvige, I can't remember what it is. Unvige something like that. But that would be my pick because that song goes hard.
Yeah. When you're talking about advertising stuff, I thought you were talking about Jennifer English singing a song. I was like, "What?" She's not singing the songs.
No, they released like a
I
marketing
know, like a
stream thing for the game where they were
yeah,
where they had
behind the music type
the
stuff.
yeah, they had live music and it was like a Twitch marketing thing. It wasn't on Twitch, but it was like, they were marketing the game via not commercials or, using alternative means. And they chose like a live studio session for it, which was really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. It'll be good. You're right. They'll probably just pick that one that everybody knows. The main one.
Which is great. So it's like, it's all good, but
Sure. Yeah. It's just like if there's like a banger or like a handful of bangers in the middle of the game. I mean, when I think about Alan Wake 2's one, like that one's like halfway through the game. So it's like it's not like it's the not that there's a lot of music to pick from that game, but it's like that one makes sense that they would do that because it's like it's the big one, even if people don't get halfway through. But I was looking at trophies. I'm like, there's a high percentage of completion so far, at least to where I'm at. High 60s, which is impressive. So we'll see how much longer it takes to, or how many at least on Steam. I didn't look at PlayStation trophy percentages, but I'll be curious to see like completion rate for this one. But keeping it with sales figures, Split Fiction has sold nearly 4 million copies as well, which is great to see. Especially considering you only need the one copy to play with your friends, so it's like you didn't have to double it up to 8 million. So good that they're doing well. Happy to see it because it's a great game. I was watching some folks play that the other day. It was they were in some of the late game levels. I was like, that was a fun time. Wouldn't mind replaying that one. And then yeah, not a whole lot of other news coming up, but some Switch 2 news. The entire FF7 remake trilogy will be coming to Switch 2. Square Enix confirmed this week. I love I love the marketing line of with the power of the Switch 2, we can now recreate Midgar with full specs. I'm like, okay, sure.
They're
Yeah,
very
there you go.
proud of it, okay?
Yeah, I know. It's just funny. But yeah, it's exciting news for people who want to play. I mean, I don't know who hasn't played it yet, at least the first and or second, but at least it's coming. I'm curious it'll be like how much it'll be for the full thing or, will it be just piecemealed out? But I imagine it'll just be one SKU, but probably the download the whole thing won't be on disc. And then Elden Ring is getting 2 new classes on the Switch 2 Tarnished Edition, which are kind of based off the Night Ring classes, I guess. So they'll have some little exclusives there. So if anyone wants to start Elden Ring over, they can try 2 new classes.
I'm not
That
gonna
could be
lie,
fun.
I kinda wanna play Elden Ring on Switch, just so I can, play it wherever I want.
God, what a choice. What a choice there. Rage wherever you want.
There you
No,
go.
you can't play it on Switch. That's a horrible idea because instead of throwing your controller, you're just going to throw the whole Switch.
The whole thing.
Yeah, you're
No,
just going
wait.
to throw it and lose your entire console because you're going to chuck your whole thing across the room. That is an awful idea. Play it on a console, the
No, the
sit-down one with a
frustration.
controller.
You grip the Joy-Cons tightly, and then it just detaches, and it just falls into your lap. The screen, like that's your frustration. Is You're like,
It has a rage fail safe where it just, like, falls apart so you can't
it's
throw it.
it's those elderly inflatable packs they have where, like, if an old person falls over, like, the backpack fills up with air so they don't hurt themselves. It's like it's got that on the bottom, so it just, like, it
It's
cover
got a
protects
little
it.
parachute that pops out.
Yeah, that'd be funny, but there you go. I'll be curious to see how well, obviously run will, but I'm wondering if there'll be people like when Demon Souls Remake came out on PS5, like, there were people who played OG who would just go on and do that griefing build with that one weapon, and then they would just be like, "Oh, let's just wreck your shop because I know all the cheesy stuff." Like, I wonder how many of those people will see, like, obviously, they have to get a Switch 2 and then do all that just to grieve, but I'm curious if that'll be
Yeah, they
an
absolutely
issue.
will.
But
Demon Souls was way worse about it though, because the scaling in Demon Souls was significantly worse than Elden Ring. And I guess with Elden Ring, you could just like kind of not come back and it doesn't really affect anything. Demon Souls, it was like, I don't know.
you
I think
also
the way it was designed was much
yeah.
less forgiving for the player.
You also couldn't in those early games, like, you couldn't, like, if you had your humanity or you're human or whatever, it's like you couldn't like, it was just on the PvP. Elden Ring, it's like you have to actively choose to do the PvP, or be playing co-op. So it's like if you're solo, you ain't gotta worry about it. But unlike Demon Souls, like, "Oh, I made myself human because I beat a boss," and then now it's like, "Oh, now you're gonna get invaded by the people who like to cheese." It's like, "Okay."
You also don't lose more and more health as you die. Like,
Yeah.
you don't significantly lower your health bar the more you die in Elden Ring to the point where then you need to use humanity in order to like have a fighting shot, and then PvP people come in and just wreck your shit. Like, not that Demon Souls was a harder game. I actually think Demon Souls is like significantly easier Souls game than any of the ones that came after. But in terms of PvP shit, Demon Souls is brutally unforgiving for people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, moving on. So, Alien Rogue Incursion was a VR title on MetaQuest 3. It will be getting a non-VR version coming to PC and PS5 that'll feature, higher FPS, a more advanced xenomorph, and some enhanced visuals. That'll be coming out. This is a game it's always interesting to me when they have a VR game. Like, I get it from a revenue standpoint. Like, okay, you put the game out in VR. If it can support a non-VR version and to get some more copies sold, like, go ahead and do it. I mean, the game's only $30, so what have you. But that was like a game I was like, oh man, if I got when I was eyeballing a MetaQuest 3, I was like, ooh, I want to get this game because it looks like it'd be a lot of fun to play. I like Alien Isolation. Be like, oh, it'd be fun to play this little Alien game in VR. But it'll be coming to consoles at the end of September, like I said as well. It's called Alien Rogue Incursion Part 1 Evolved Edition. So I'm like, does it end on like a cliffhanger where there's definitely going to be a part 2? Because I don't remember an announcement for a second one. So it's an interesting subtitle to it for being coming to consoles, but who knows? Speaking of stuff coming to consoles, Gears of War Reloaded got announced and it's coming to PlayStation. Xbox releasing another first party title onto the PlayStation platform. They'll be launching on August 26th, Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. It'll be 4K resolution, 120 FPS, cross-play multiplayer for Gears as well. So, I depending on the price, like, I never played. That was like a franchise. Obviously, I didn't have an Xbox, but I knew people with Xbox. But I never played Gears. I was just like, yeah, I'm good. I don't want to play it, especially way back in the day when it came out. But I was like, you know what? Give it a shot.
I man, uh, I can't go into too many spoilers since you know nothing about it, but I feel like that's a game where like they really nailed the first game and set up so much cool stuff with the first game, and then it had the Mass Effect treatment of like like the story dragged on for so long over so many games that I'm like, I don't know if I would ever replay it because I know that the story never like resolved in a neat little package. It's still ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if they end up releasing the entire series, like doing remastered of 2, 3, and everything all the way up, and they come to PlayStation, I can see like playing the whole series. Like I feel like it'd be a good thing. It'd be
I don't
fun to
think 3 is
stream.
even the end though.
No,
I
it's
think
not.
it's
They have
like
Judgment, and they have the Gears of
yeah,
War 4. Like they have all these other titles, but
right. But none of them actually like wrap a bow on it. All of them end on essentially like a major cliffhanger that makes you want to play the next game and doesn't resolve the story, which is why people stop playing them because it just went on too much.
if you got fun, yeah, I can see that. But if you got fun gameplay, I feel like back then, it's like that's kind of all people. What I remember is just people having fun with the gameplay, the active reload. I do remember there's a bit where like hearing on the way back, listen to Bernie Burns say like there's a part where they go, "We got to get to the train," and he's like, "What train?" It's like there's like some to him he thought like they felt like there's cut content like about a train, and suddenly they had to get to a train, but there's never mention of a train before, and suddenly they're on a train. He's like, "What train? Where did this train come from?" So that's my main thing that I know about Gears of War. And I've seen a lot of stuff way back when of it playing, but I could see, like I said, it could be fun doing a first playthrough on stream or something, doing it there.
The first game is good, but it's just like far too wobbly for me.
Yeah.
It's just
Oh,
like
like
I
camera shake when
can't,
they're running.
yeah, I can't look at it for
Mhm.
very long.
Yeah, I remember looking at I think it was, like, because it was so early days, like, whenever I watched it, I felt like because it was probably 720p and, not that there were, TVs bigger than 1080 back then, but I remember looking, I'm like, I don't know, it was just it was that era too of, like, things started to become, like, brown and what have you, like, losing color, desaturated, and,
Mhm.
it never appealed to me, and obviously part of that was the fact I didn't own the console, so I was never incentivized to get it. But yeah, I was like, yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like I'm sure now it'll be like I wish I could remember go back think about what I was playing when the original came out, like on PlayStation instead. But yeah, maybe like I said, depend on the price. I might give it a shot. Just see like try this out. I mean, I'd do the same if Master Chief Collection came to PlayStation or something. I'd be like, you know what? I played the first one way back.
I was about to say, wait, have you never played Halo?
Well, I played the
That
first
I
one way
would
back,
say like, man, you missed an iconic one there if you'd never done that. But
but I didn't play any after the
yeah,
first one.
1 and 2 are all you really needed to do.
Uh, but and I hardly remember anything about it. Like I don't like I remember some kind of crazy end run I think it was, and then just run around on the Halo. Like people talk about like I look at that flood scene where it's like, oh, this is the flood. I'm like I don't maybe I didn't get here. But I just remember thinking like, oh, this area feels a lot like the same area, or like getting kind of lost. But that was like obviously way back in the day. But I could see doing that again if that came to PlayStation. I'd be like, oh, I'll give it another shot. I mean, I have PC now, so I could play Master Chief Collection there, but nah. And then yeah, moving on from there, Fallout Season 2, since it's game related, has finished wrapping. They had a funny social media post where to announce the wrap of filming, they showed Walter Goggins just ripping off the ghoul skin off his face. Like, all right, I don't need this anymore. It was kind of a funny little way to announce that we're done filming. So
I can
cool to
take
see.
the shit off my face.
Yeah. So cool to see that's done. I'm curious how long it'll take to do because now they still got to do obviously, post production effects, everything else, editing. So I'm curious how long that'll take. But looking forward to Fallout Season 2. We hardly talk about it, but like Last of Season 2 is going on currently. At the point of recording tonight will be episode 5 of this season. Only 3 episodes remaining of this first half, essentially. But
It's because I have feels about it.
yeah, well, I always forget to talk about it every time that happens because then later that night I'm always like, I'll edit the podcast, post it, and then for Monday, and then I'll be like, do I want to stream? Like, oh no, the React channel is going to put up their Tilo at some point because they're like, I think they're Central Time, so I just got to wait for them. They can get it up really fast, and I just watch along with them. But I did pick up a Max subscription because wife started episode 1 yesterday, and then I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just now I can watch it once it goes live, and then hopefully just hop on stream after or something. But usually I'll just paint Warhammer minis when I'm watching that. But go ahead and move on from that because not much else in the news. Man, I feel like there was something I posted in Discord. I gotta go back and find it where like it was a higher up at a game company like bemoaning the fact that it was CG Project is saying that I don't. It's like we should have games shouldn't be digital on a fake cartridge essentially. It's like you should
Mhm.
release the game on the cartridge for the Nintendo Switch too. So I thought that was like basically don't underestimate the physical edition, which is what a lot of people, even though the market shows that that digital is kind of overtaking in some places, it's like you still got to do physical
I mean,
releases, man.
weren't you the one that shared with us that, because I had that stance before too, that I feel we should still be getting physical editions of everything, and then I feel like you were the one that shared the graphic with us that in PS3 or something like 70% of the game purchases were digital, or it was some like,
No, not PS3.
God, I feel like it was something crazy where it was like an astronomical number of digital purchases, and it happened way earlier than I expected. I got to find this conversation now to
Well,
reference it.
obviously, I that might have shown something like you have to go back because I don't remember that. Like it could have been obviously the PlayStation Store launched, Xbox Live was there, so there was a lot of like small games, PlayStation Minis as they called them way back, where they would only be available on digital. Like you couldn't buy them physically; they were digital only games. So it's like, yeah, you obviously have. If you count one game as a SKU, there is potential that okay, this sold a lot, like they sold a lot of digitals. But as far as like mainstream titles, like the actual things that have always been physical going to digital, I think we didn't see that flip. Like I did have a graph where I showed, I remember seeing it, but it was more around that like PS4, Xbox One era, where that's like it really started to kind of change over. Which is fine. Like I made that switch at PS4 essentially. Like I had all, not that PS3 PlayStation Network was a great place to download super slow, digital games. But once I got to PS4, like I had my first 3 games were physical, then I had a couple physical afterwards, and I was like, it's just I'm just gonna download them because I got tired of changing discs, man. It's like that's when it was like it was multiplayer. It really did it for me. I was like, I was gonna my original thing was like, okay, multiplayer games, digital, single player games, physical. Because then I could at least delete the single player game, make room for other stuff, and then I don't have to worry about finding the disc for the multiplayer game when I want to play Battlefield or something. And so, but now I'm just like, I'm just all digital. It's like that I made that switch. I can see going back potentially. Like I do prefer physical. Well, I would now that when my kid got a Switch, I was like, okay, physical is the better option here because then we don't have to worry about okay, now I have to make his console the master, mine can be the secondary. That way he can play games wherever he goes because the in-laws or what have you, he can still play a copy, which is what I had to do, and we still get some games digitally, but I try to make sure if I get them, I can get them at least on a some games on a disc. But yeah,
I
yeah.
had the thought of going digital at one point. I was just like, I'll just buy physical copies of the stuff that I want a physical copy for. Like I bought a
Hmm.
physical copy of Sea of Stars because I love that game so much and I was like, I want to have a physical copy of it. I want to buy this like special edition, have all the stuff with it. So I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll just buy digital of games that I'm gonna play, and then maybe I'll get a physical later on down the line, or I'll only buy special editions of stuff that I really, really want, stuff like that. And then Nintendo shut down their eShops, and I was like, you know what? I'm good. I'll make room for my stuff. So
I
that's
feel
fine.
like that's the exact problem I've had, that I was pretty strongly against digital for PS3 and a lot of PS4. And then with like PS5, I actually kind of started to get really on board with it just because I honestly don't have enough space for all the games I want to buy. And then like recently, I just feel like, Nintendo's been shutting down stores. Sony has been pulling things from digital stores. Steam has pulled stuff. Everyone is just like actually pulling things and shutting it down. And yeah, it's I don't know. It's weird.
It's just a lot of effort to it exists somewhere. Like there's always the preservationists that are like, okay, this doesn't exist in a media that you can legally obtain anymore, but you can like get this emulator and you can, download. I have that for some 3DS games that I never really like knew about or I never just got around to playing on the eShop and they were digital only. So it's like those games just don't exist in like a retail space anymore. There's no physical copy of it. So you have to use like Citra and download the ROM for it. But that's like a lot of effort to go through for something if I want to like go back and play something older.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, like there's a time I think I was like, oh man, I'd love to go. I had like all of my PS2 titles I still have a good chunk of them somewhere. And I had like I found my Slim. I was like, oh, that'd be fun to go back and play some of these. And I'm like, oh, do I need a memory card? Or do I have my memory card? I don't think I got one. But and then of course I still have like all my PS3 games. They're just in the garage. But yeah, I could see making, like I said, the collector's edition stuff. Like I've thought about that for some games. Like, then the issue I always run into is like, oh, but there's no game in the case for a lot of them. I'm like,
Yeah.
why you gotta do that? But now I end up buying stuff that's related, like vinyl soundtracks or other aspects of it. But yeah, I'm currently fine with the. I think it'd have to take like one major company to be like everything's gone and not have a way to play it, to be like, okay, that's like it happened, like
Hmm.
because with Steam, that was always thinking, like, because Steam was the big one right at the start, and it was like, oh, what happened? Like, oh, we have a switch we can hit to turn everything off, and like which maybe they do, and but it was like, oh, do they really? But it's like, but what about? It's like they probably do, but what about like Sony and Microsoft, or not that I expect them to just suddenly shut down, but
Hmm.
what if? Ponder
I
the
mean, that
question.
was eShop for me,
Yeah.
because it's like there may be a physical copy of a game that I've just learned about. Maybe it was like a cult favorite or something like that, or even just like a game that was never released in America, and it's like, well, I know enough that I could read and get through it and play it and enjoy it, but copies on eBay are $150, whereas if the eShop existed, I could go buy it for $40. So.
Yeah, and at least what I have, at least on the Sony side, I have seen like if a game comes off the store for some reason, if you purchased it and you have like that license for it, you can always re-download it. The only time they ever removed that entirely was with PT, where it's like that was the
Mhm.
first time it's like, okay, even though you have it or you download it, so you have that license for it, it's like you can't re-download it anymore. They're like, no, it's just wiped, and that was like clearly at Konami's request.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a
They've
we'll
done
see.
other one. Sony's pulled other ones though. Like they just last month pulled Resistance: Fall of Man.
Well, they took that out of their PlayStation Plus Premium.
Didn't they
Um,
also remove it from the actual store?
I
Well,
don't
they
know if
took it
they
out of PlayStation Plus Premium, so can't you not play it now?
well, you'd only be able to play it on if you have the
On
PS3. But I mean, that's the case for all PS3 games, really. Like, there's only
I
so
guess
many
that's true.
PlayStation 3 classics on the store that you can actually play digitally and or stream through PlayStation Now. Like, that's how I replayed Dead Space 3. Like, I have the game, but I didn't want to go dig for it and hook up my my PS3 to play it. But yeah, I think that'd be different if those games, all those games, like there were, because it's like you just can't. They have to emulate them in a certain way in order to get them to play on PlayStation 4s, PlayStation 5s, and stuff like that. So it's
Mhm.
like that. Like I can see if it comes off a Plus subscription, like whatever. You're gonna say something.
Oh no, I was looking up which games got removed from
Yeah,
libraries, and I
it
want
was
to fact check
Resistance
some of these.
1 and 2, because we commented on that last week, because 3 is like still out there, but they got rid of the other two. But yeah, they just came off the PS Plus Premium catalog. But yeah, all right. Well, that's, like I said, it for the new. While you go ahead and fact check me in real time.
Nah, nah, I'm not gonna do it real time. I was curious myself. I was like, I felt
Which one
like
was
there was
received
another
later?
one that.
Yeah,
Well, so everyone always brings up PT, but like if that was the only one, it wouldn't really be an issue. I felt like there was something that got pulled from people's games or Steam or something like last year that reignited this conversation, and it bothers me because I can't remember what the game was, so I just sound like a random person rambling about it, and I'm like, am
Didn't
I
they do
making
that
it
with
up? Is this
Concord?
the
yeah. Concord is like gone. So that's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but they refunded everybody. So it's like,
Yeah, but that's the
that's a
thing, is like nobody they didn't just like make it free. They refunded everybody, make it free or whatever, but
yeah, they
you
refunded 10
can't
people.
play that game.
Yeah, but that's also like, it wasn't like 100,000 people were playing that game. It's like 20 guys or
sure, but
something.
it's
Yeah, but from like a preservation standpoint, or like
Sure,
later on
sure,
down the
sure.
line, if somebody's like hears about it and it's like, oh, I want to try this out and see how bad it really was, you
Yeah,
can't.
you can't do it. Yeah, that's like the most extreme instance. But the only time they've ever pulled something was like Cyberpunk, where they temporarily pulled it until they were able to patch it. Like they pulled
Yeah.
them and Microsoft pulled it out the store because like it clearly, that was a quality issue, not like we don't want to sell this. It was just like, this is not what people think they're buying, so we're pulling it
And
off
it
our store.
it came back, like, it wasn't a
Yeah,
permanent thing. They were like, "We're gonna pull this so that we don't run into an issue of people buying it and wanting to refund it. We're just gonna pull it and then put it back later when it's
right.
fixed."
Yeah, yeah. But yeah. All right. Well, that's pretty much it for the news. We can go ahead and move on to what we've been playing. I know we've all been playing Clair Obscur, but has anybody been playing anything else besides that?
Monsty Hunty.
Monster Hunter? How's that going?
Speaking of having to switch games all the time, I have Monster Hunter and Clair Obscur Physical Edition. So when I want to
Uh-huh.
play Monster Hunter, I have to switch the discs.
Gotta take that dick, get it out, and
And
make sure it's
also
in
I
the
have
right
to wait.
case.
Yeah, and also I have to wait until Michael is not playing Clair Obscur. So I'm like doubly annoyed with my PlayStation right now. I want a second PlayStation is the real issue.
Do you guys do the thing where like you play until the other one catches up to where you are, or is it just like they like he's hypothetically further than you, but you just don't look at it, so you're like, okay, don't spoil shit for me, wear your headphones, kind of thing.
He let me play first because it's easier for him to not pay
Ignore.
attention to it
Yeah.
because I can very clearly see the TV from like where I sit at my desk or whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
And after it came out, he technically has more time to like play it in little bits throughout the week because he works from home. So he let me like get pretty far ahead. And then in order to avoid any spoilers or accidentally watching me play or anything like that, he put a black piece of paper up in between his monitors so he can't see the TV.
That's funny.
Because he has a different setup now. When I was playing Final Fantasy 16, he like squished his monitors together on their stands so that he couldn't see the TV.
That's funny.
So we don't have a great setup for when we both want to play a game on the PlayStation, and we don't want spoilers, but we figured it out. He's behind me though. Actually, he just caught up to where I am more or less, so it's not really a big deal now.
Yeah. But all right. So how much Monster are you playing? You playing like a lot right
I'll
now, or are you able to play more Clear Obscure?
I've been playing way more Clair Obscur. I'll usually play Monster Hunter if I don't have a whole lot of time, like after work, or if I'm just like not in the mood to sit down and get into Clair Obscur and then have to stop playing it in a couple hours. I'll usually just pop Monster Hunter in and do like a few hunts and play that and just for something to do, pretty much.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think you both are going to be further than I am. So we spoiled last episode Claire Obscure up to the end of Act 2 because that's where I was right after that, and then the camp scene afterwards. But
Act
since
one.
then, so end of Act 1, start of Act 2. Yeah. The only thing I've done since then was I did a bunch of cleanup stuff on the first area, and then I've destroyed the first Axon of mine. But I did I guess the harder of the two that they tell you about. And then I'm curious where like the
So
third one is.
since I missed it, were you guys surprised by Gustav's death, or did you totally see it coming?
No, I did not
I
see it coming.
did not see it coming at all. No.
Really?
And I did not believe it for the longest time. I think I was talking to you in Discord. I was like, I am convinced that this new dude is actually Gustav. And it probably took several hours before I was like, okay, maybe he's not.
Yeah, like I'm still under the impression that either because I'm like there are some skills that are still locked on other characters. For the most part, they're all open. But there's other ones that have lock symbols. Like, and so many of his had lock symbols. Like, okay, it's either the greatest misdirect or he is coming back somehow, and that's how we
Mhm.
get access to the other ones. So I'm like, and like I kind of hope it's just the misdirect and he's actually gone. Don't bring him back. But it is weird to only, at least right now, and I don't know, maybe it changes later. But like not having a full team of 6 to have a full backup, reserve team
Mhm.
is interesting, especially for an RPG. But and it's so funny. Like like he died. It was shocking. But you know whose death got me a little more than that was when
Oh, Noko.
Noko?
yeah when Noko
Oh
died. I
no.
was like
I'm
I
like, are
was
you laughing or crying? What's going on?
I'm laughing because it was so funny. I was like he's dead.
and it just the
He's
way that it
gone.
reveals it, it just pans over. I was like, oh
Yeah,
no.
Noko, he's gone. I was like, the little guy. He's
The
gone. It was
sassy
funny, like,
little the sassy little woodman. No.
yeah, like I was like, because even though his Gustav's caught me off guard, it's like that one was like kind of surprising. Like, oh no, it was like it felt more sad because he's just so cute, little guy, little
And
Jesper
just like
Bushman.
not involved in any way whatsoever. He just happened to be there and is like,
Hmm.
what the fuck?
Yeah, but yeah, I was not expecting his death. That definitely caught me off guard. I guess of everybody, being voiced by Charlie Cox, like, okay, well maybe he had to go do some more Daredevil stuff. I don't know, like who knows? I don't know when the timetable was for the making of this game, so it's like a time thing. And like, okay, we'll cast him as the one who doesn't have as many lines as everybody else. But yeah, I mean, who knows by the end? But yeah, so I'm not that far. How I'm assuming both of you have done two of the Axons.
I've
Yeah,
done both axons, and then I've done the area that comes after the axons.
I
Okay.
have to.
So I'm like, I guess, 2 areas ahead of you of the second axon or the first axon, and then the area that comes immediately after that have also finished,
Okay. Yeah, so I guess there's not too much between
which
the
I'm
end
being
of
vague
Act
about, so
One.
you don't know what the next area is.
Yeah, I get. It's like not. I've seen stuff in Zaya talking about cutscenes in Discord, so I guess
Listen,
yeah. I don't know how we talk anymore because there's not too much that happens between that. I mean, I guess you go to Minoko Station, and you meet Minoko, who's a great character. Uh, that happens after the end of Act One, so I guess there is a good amount because you go to Minoko Station, you talk to him, and then you go to Old Lumiere. Uh, the transition between him crashing into the building and then them getting scattered somehow, it was really weird. And now I think it's on PC. There's like a judder between jumping to the cutscene, especially if a cutscene
There,
is if it just
yeah.
it was
It
weird.
I've had a few instances like that where I think the actual answer is just like lower budget, lack of animation time. Like I don't think it's any weird bug or anything. I think it's just that they didn't have time to animate everything. I noticed that with like when you're in camp and you're raising your relationship, and instead of actually having the conversation that's voiced, they give you a summary of what the conversation is about. Like,
mhm.
oh, they discuss this and they both feel closer. And it's like, I wanted to hear that conversation. Damn you. And I think a lot of it is really just like they just didn't have the time or the budget to do it.
Yeah, I see that too, like the lip syncing. I'm like, my man, I was like, does no one have that Half-Life 2 tech where like the lips move a little more no matter what language you put in that they showed off way back in the day? I was like, because there are some scenes where like they're talking, I'm like, it's not perfectly lined up, but I'm assuming it's just, animation time and then all the different language probably just easier to do it the way they did it, where it's not perfect. Obviously in the cutscenes it's a little more, lined up, but just general conversation, I'm like, it stands out to me. They don't sync up. So it's like you can see like those little, like you said, the budget and time blemishes. Not that it makes the game, bad. They just like they stand out when everything else is so incredibly like good
Yeah,
production wise.
I notice it because anytime there's like a rendered cutscene, I'm consistently blown away with how good the facial expressions are and the movements and everything like that. And then you have the like in-game, obviously,
Hmm.
lower res thing, and I'm just like, they're still moving too much. You
Hmm.
have all of these very good, subtle facial expressions, and everything is very realistic in the cutscenes, but you still have them wiggling around too much. Like I had one conversation where Verso just like wiggled out of frame. He was moving around so much. And I was like, okay, bye. Why are you coming
He's just
back? What's
sneaking
happening?
out of frame.
Yeah, he's
He's
just
like,
like moving around so much that he just like completely moved out of frame. Oh, okay.
that's funny.
So it's like the lip syncing in those isn't the thing that gets me. It's them like wiggling around so much. And I'm just like, I don't know when this is going to be like a thing that's fixed in video games, but it's a thing that I happen to notice in like every game that does like conversation like that, where they're just standing and talking. And it's like, it's okay if they just stand there and talk and maybe like move around a little bit, but they don't have to wiggle every time they say a word. Just
Yeah.
like keep them in frame at least. Where is he going?
Also, Mael needs to blink more. I'm like, you girl, you need to blink. you're
She's
you're
got those
piercing me with
big
that
bright
gaze.
eyes. Just like,
Yeah. What are you doing?
I
You know? Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I feel like we can't talk too much about story because of where you're at and everything, but I'm curious what your theories of what is
Oh,
going on
man,
are.
I'm out. Like when I'm like the original theories I was kind of running on is okay. Like early on, we talked about it. I don't think you were on that podcast because you had guests over. Where I was like, I was like, oh well, the mask girl clearly is. I was like, early on, I was like, this is clearly Mael because it's her crazy eyes, and I
Yeah.
could see it. And then I was like, and the old man is maybe. Some people I'd listen to on the game club I'm listening along with, they're like, oh, maybe that's Gustav and he's older. I'm like, nah, that can't be it. Um, but I was like, but this is like so Mael. Like, look at those eyeballs. Like they're twins. It's either her, and then later at the manor, I was like, maybe they're twins, or she is like reincarnated version of her somehow, Mael, and or like because they talk a lot about because what expedition they were expedition they were expedition zero, weren't was that
Urso?
right for yeah
That was Verso.
Yeah, they're
yeah
Expedition Zero.
but they talk a lot about how they would come back to Lumiere to help rebuild. Or at least he talks about that. But I forget when. He doesn't say exactly when they stopped doing that.
He's vague about the
Um,
timeline. He just kind of says that he came back to help rebuild once or something.
yeah, because I'm
He
wondering, like,
came back
okay,
like once or twice, and then he had a falling out with Renoir and left again and never went back. But he's vague about like how long that all was.
yeah, because I was like, okay, well, maybe Renoir came back and like, because they talk like, oh, her parents are gone. Her parents like she's a foster child. And it's like, well, what if they were twins and he just took one and then goes back to for some reason takes the baby with them to the island, like he's like, oh well, no one died here. I'm like, but then it brings in the question like, okay, but he talks about the her dying in a or getting hurt in a fire. I was like, well, I don't know. There's just a lot going on. So I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna try to focus on I try not to, like, theory craft too much, especially, like, even when I watch, like, a movie that's, like, a mystery or whatever, like, I try not to. I'm bad about doing it now where I'm like, "Oh, this is" like, I'll predict what someone's gonna say, but usually it's just because it's the obvious thing to say, or I'll say, like, "Oh, it's this and that," but it's, like, right before it happens, I'll call
Yeah.
it or something. But I try not to, like,
Well, that's just good
thi
foreshadowing. If you call it right before it happens, that means they laid enough breadcrumbs that it was like the logical story beat.
Yeah, but I try not to think too far ahead, like, who are these people? Like, I'll just let it play out, but I'm still like, they're clearly very similar, these 2, because they got the same crazy eyes. I'm like, "It's the same." So I'm like, "Okay." Like, that'll be like, if it's not that doesn't pay out, I'll be like, "Okay, well, it looks so obvious that if it's not that anything like that, like a twin or reincarnation or whatever," I'm like, "Okay, then
You need a
you
different animator then.
yeah, you need to change your crazy eyes or something." I don't know. But yeah,
I
because anyway.
I feel like one safe thing we can talk about them locations for like expedition flags and expedition journals. And I would really love like this is I think a testament to like good world building that I read so many of these expedition journals and I'm just like I have to know more about this. Like the freaking expedition that traveled on a Ferris wheel? What? Like
Yeah.
how did that happen? I like how did they do that? I just want to know more about some of these earlier expeditions. And then you've got like I don't think this is spoilers. Maybe you haven't found the journal, but like the climbers expedition that talks about how they laid all the grapples, and I'm like,
Mhm.
well, the grapples are everywhere, so you must have made it really fucking far since the
Uh-huh.
grapples are like. I know you're just trying to explain away a game mechanic, but they're everywhere.
And they only have,
Mhm.
like, 3 in front of 'em, they didn't even make it out of the thing. I'm like,
Right.
"Y'all didn't even make
But
it out, man."
they're in every area of the game, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe there's like I will say maybe the final areas don't have grapples, but I suspect that the expedition was just put in to explain why there are grapples everywhere for traversal, and I suspect the final area of the game will have grapples. Um,
If they made it that far. Yeah.
well, I don't know. I feel like it's going to have grapples or something like or
I feel
handholds, just because that's like a climbing mechanic in the game. Like they put it in for traversal. Um,
yeah. I
Maybe
feel like the
maybe they really won't have it though, but they've made it everywhere.
I feel like the grapple stuff, like, the climbing, like, is used a little bit early, but not a whole lot. Like, they use the square, whip grapple quite a bit in some areas because like, that's the only way to get from floating rock to floating rock.
Which I
But I'm
assume
like
that was also the climbers expedition, I
yeah,
think.
climbers, but I'm just thinking, like, from a gameplay mechanic point, like, there's not too many of it. Like, I like that they tied in the story, it's very God of War 2018. But, yeah, I feel like that like, there's not too much grappling in a lot of play outside those early areas. It's like, "Okay, climb up here," but I feel like later on, it's like, not too much, you just kinda run around, do whatever." But, yeah, I wish that there was more because where like, obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but it's like, I feel like, okay, if, like the objective of killing the Axon is to make a weapon to pierce the veil to get to the Paintress. Or at least we gotta find the Paintress's heart, which is somewhere, but we have to pierce the veil. And I guess I like how there's a cutscene if you approach the veil, because I did that, and like someone in chat who had already beaten the game was like, "Oh, I didn't know there was a cutscene here if you approach it without having the weapon." And like a
Oh,
little
is
cutscenes
there?
there. Yeah, if you approach it, you're on uh you approach it in the water, and then it goes to a cutscene, and you're all standing on top of Eski, and then like and then Looney's like, well, maybe we can just get through it. And then, and then you're like, all right, go ahead and try,
Yeah.
maybe. And she like puts her hand on it and like, ow, ow, ouch. He like hurts her hand. And he's like, yeah, you want to try it again? And she's like,
I love
just
that. I
bursts up
love
like
when
egging her
Versa's
on.
just like annoying. He's like, "Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Try it."
The one
What did I
mechanic in
tell
the
you?
game that's weird that they don't explain, that kind of annoyed me was when you talk to people like after I think one bit, like I talked to someone at camp and it's like they have a line of dialogue and you talk like, "Do you want to spend time with them?" I'm like, "Okay, sure." And it's like, "Okay, the rank," and it's like, "Oh, your friendship rank 1." I'm like, "Okay, but what does that mean?" Like, I'm like, "Does this mean?" Early on, I was like, "Is this some sort of Mass Effect 2 situation where if I don't have friendship levels max at the end of the game, they die or something?" Like, what's the mechanic behind this? And then later, eventually, when I finally got to 4, it's like, oh, it just unlocks the next level of their R2,
Yeah.
special
Mhm.
I
gradient attack.
I like the method of unlocking it, but totally agree that it just happens in Act 2 where you like talk to someone and it levels up for the first time and you're kind of like, "Oh, all right, I
This is
guess
a
this is
thing?
a part of the yeah, like this is a thing now."
But
It was kind of weird they just never like mentioned it before.
and what annoys me there is like it reminds me a lot of it's like one of my issues with Returnal. They tie kind of very similarly. Is that so? I talk to them. It's like okay, they get to level 1, and then I play the game for a while, and then there's another cutscene where we have to go to camp after whatever happens. I think it's after you fight in Old Lumiere. And it's like then you go to camp, and I talk again, and they were like, "Oh, talk to someone to get to level 2." Then I noticed like one person was a higher level. And everybody else, I was like, I think it was like SQ was like high or something. I forget who. And then I was like, can I talk to them again? So I talked to someone. You had the exact same conversation that you just had, beat for beat. And then it says, do you want to spend time with them? And I do. I'm like, okay, now I took them up to level 2. And I tried again. It's like, okay, now they're level 3. I'm like, okay, so clearly I'm supposed to be resting at camp more than I am because I'm only doing it when the story makes me, which is like in Returnal, the only time I ever go to the house, especially in the second act where like I got through all those zones like in one go. The house doesn't spawn. Like you have to die to get the house to spawn to get those story beats, which kind of annoyed me in the end. Like luckily in that game it was pretty easy to go back and do that. But this I'm like, there's no indication that hey, you should keep going back. You should rest a camp more often to get these little to raise your friendship levels.
Yeah, I mean, you're
And
definitely basically after every story beat, you should go rest at camp.
well,
But I
they
don't
make
think
you
it's
after the story
missable.
beats.
I don't think it's
Yeah,
missable stuff, but
it's
you
just
should rest.
annoying because, like, then I talked to someone, like, 3 times. We have the same conversation, and then we have 3 different cutscenes, and it's just like I was trying to end a stream like, "Okay, well, let's just try to knock all these out so we can not have to start by doing this because I don't wanna skip the cutscenes, but, like, having to do all of them back to back versus spaced out naturally through the course of gameplay, because I don't go to camp." Like, the only reason I went back to camp that one time is because I was like, "Oh, I wanna go back because I have enough of the upgrade stones to take a weapon up to a certain point." So I'm like, "Okay, well, let's go upgrade our weapons first. That because we got a big fight coming up, and let's go do that." But I only ever go when the game makes me go. And then so it's just like, okay, there's this mechanic that you're not telling me I should do more of and to space out and not get frustrated that I'm doing them all. It's like that one game, Zaya, where you bucket all of your random encounters and then do them all at once.
Oh, yeah, Fantasia.
Y except it's cutscenes, and it's like it's the total opposite of what you want. It's like, "No, I'd rather have these spaced out for story purposes." And then suddenly it's like I'm sleeping with, one of the characters. I'm like, "Okay, I I guess we
Okay,
talked so much
get
and
it.
now we're doing it." But, uh
I feel like after that first time in Act 2 when you get, like, the rank up, I was like, "Oh, okay, so this is a thing." I kinda made it a point to go to camp more, but I really
Mhm,
just did it to keep up on my upgrades and stuff. I would go to camp, usually after I finished maybe, like, a side area or right before, like, going into a new area or doing, like, big overworld fight or anything like that. I would go into camp and, like, make sure I was all upgraded and, it's, like, a quick way to go in and do, like, your attributes and your skills and stuff like that, and then I would just talk to people while I was there. So it's kind of like "Okay, this is my little area to, like, upgrade and prepare and, like, try to keep up on stuff," and then also I'll just kinda talk to everybody and see if anything's different after I've done this thing or before I do this or whatever, so
yeah. Yeah, like, I if I had gotten more because I was like the whole time I was playing after that, because we had I asked you like after Act 2, like, hey, when do we start getting more of those the stones to upgrade you past level 9 on weapons? And I thought I'd get more of them, but like I still didn't get a whole lot. And then suddenly, like I was in that one zone. I guess it was the Axon with the mask, where it was like, oh, I was doing all the side areas before the main route, and it's like I felt like, oh, I'm getting like here's three, here's three, here's three. I'm like, okay, now I'm actually getting some. So I was more incentivized myself to go back to the camp because I didn't find any other. I didn't do a ton of side stuff, so maybe if I had done that, I could have found more like item upgrades to get done, or what have you. But yeah, I was just like not finding enough to go back. But now I'm making sure, like, okay, let's try to go back, so I'm not just spamming. I know because now I think
Yeah,
most people are at 4, so I shouldn't have to worry about it.
I I will say I think one thing I've struggled with. So I'm going to preface this by saying, without spoilers, that I think this is maybe like the best RPG I've played in like the last decade. The only other one that kind of comes close is Baldur's Gate, but they're kind of different styles. But in terms of like JRPGs, I think this is the best JRPG I've played since the original Final Fantasies. So with that underway, I'd say that just because I'm going to complain about something. I have struggled because I feel like I'm at a point in the game where a lot of the side bosses are ridiculously hard. So I've had to change my build around I'm at that like side bosses are too hard, but story bosses are too easy. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do to bridge the gap between side bosses and story bosses. So
Mhm.
I've been kind of throwing my head against the wall at some of the like world bosses, and I've beaten a few of them, but I've had to do it by changing my build around to cater specifically to that boss. And I actually love that you can change your build around to do that, but the fact that there's no way to save builds is driving me nuts because it feels like the game wants you to change your build around on a per boss basis as you get to the later parts. And with so much customization of Lumina points and Pictos and skills, it just takes so fucking long.
Mhm.
It's like a
Yeah,
I've done
multi-hour process to do that.
I
yeah,
have sat down a couple times to be like, okay, I've leveled up a lot of Pictos, but I have kind of just like thrown the Luminas on as far as like going through the characters and being like, okay, they have this many points to spare, I'll just throw it on. So I've had to go through a couple times and like completely wipe everybody out, be like, okay, what do I want on you? And I have to go through all of the Luminas and figure that out. And like, okay, what Picto do I want on you? Because I want like the stat bonus and stuff like that. So it's definitely like, yeah, I wish there was a way to save like loadouts, I guess, so that it just doesn't get like messy and you have to like sit down for 20 minutes and clean everybody's skills up.
yeah, yeah. Especially for the, like Lumina points, like picking those down. Like that'd be great to be like, okay, I want this one, so it's more like my, I want to focus on. I don't know, like if it's an enemy with more range, you have to do a lot of shooting for some reason, floating things or what have you. It's
Well,
like, okay, maybe
Hmm.
build towards this or do that. Not
that's
even just
exactly
elementals.
that's exactly the type of side boss I was thinking of. Is like I came across a side boss that flies, so the only way to damage it is either with counters or shooting it. So I had to change my build, and I'm like, okay, well, I need like all of these like on base attack, AP gain things are kind of pointless. I need a build that centers around doing more damage with countering or healing with countering or whatever, and building statuses on shooting. So I had to go through and like change all of those, but then you only really use that for that type of boss. So then I had to change everything back, and it just made me really feel like, man, I really wish you could save loadouts, like just a few loadouts in this game, which is super nitpicky, but that's why I had to preface it with like, I think this is the best JRPG I've played in 10 years because it's such a weird nitpick, but it does stand out in the game to me.
Yeah, it seems like something that they could probably patch later if other people are having the same kind of issues. That's like one of the reasons, like I'm not worried about, well, because I'm not doing the side bosses because they're so like insanely difficult. Like, great, I get
Hmm.
to an area, it's like, oh, here's a side boss. It's like super strong. You barely do any damage. I'm like, I guess I'll come back to you in Act 3. This is like third disc
Don't get
shit.
an idiot.
'Cause I'm not gonna, yeah, don't get hit, and also I do not even a hair's width of damage to you on your
But
thing. It's like
Hmm.
that's what
like,
I was
I'll
struggling with is like there is a like there's not a clear go here in order to bridge the gap kind of areas. Like the areas are pretty clear up to Act 2 and all of that content, but I haven't figured out like some of those bosses have so much health that you're clearly supposed to be doing like hundreds of thousands or millions of damage to them, but like Yeah, trying to figure out where you go in order to do that, I've had trouble with, and I've had a few boss fights now that it's been like a 20-minute boss fight in order to kind of force my way through an area.
Yeah, I that's why I'm like, anytime I come across one, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna wait until I get past the damage limit, and then because I know it's coming, and then I'll just I'm hoping the game has a what is like this is a point of no return, and then maybe do the cleanup on those guys just to like. But there's so many of them is the problem, and I'm like, I'm all for like side bosses, but like even the weapons in FF7, like there was only a handful of them. Some you did in the story because you had to, and then there would be just a couple going around. It's like, "Oh, here's ultimate weapon, here's ruby weapon." You know what I mean? So it's not like you had to there wasn't like I felt like there's just way too many of these side bosses right now. It's like I get to there, it's like, "Oh, here's a side boss here. Oh, here's a side boss. Oh, here's" it's like and then it stands like, "Okay, well, like, but you're so early in act 2." It's like, "Why are you taunting me right now?" It's like I don't know. I feel like if they're gonna be big and strong, somehow reintroduce them. Like, that's what I kinda like about the weapons in 7, right? It's like, oh, the planet fighting back. And then, it's like big story shit happens, and then it kinda eases you in through a couple of them. Obviously, these little side guys aren't story related, but it's just like it bugs me that I can't even like, I could attempt them, and like I said, just perfect dodge and parry, but it's like, you do so little damage, I'm not spending an hour on one fight that if I make one mistake, I'm like, "It's done." You know what I mean? Um
Yeah, if it's I have had a couple of those, like, difficult fights where it's like, if you miss one attack, you're either going to be nearly dead to the point where, like, you have to finish the combo, or at least one person has just been one shot by this one attack in this combo.
Mhm.
And I feel like if I can see myself doing enough damage either with parries or with building up skills and just everything like that, if I can do a decent amount of damage or if I can build up the break bar really quickly, um, I'll bash my head against this until I figure out how to dodge and how to parry it and just not get hit. But I feel like I've come across, like Izzy was saying, some of the world bosses where it's just like there has to be a gimmick to this
Yeah.
because there was that one that I encountered where there was a bit of a gimmick to it, and if you figured it out or if you were able to pull it off, it made the fight a lot easier.
Mhm.
So it's like now I go into the fights looking like, okay, what is your gimmick? Like, what are you weak to? Or, what do I have to do? Or what are you going to do that I absolutely need to parry or like gradient parry or anything like that? So it's like there has to be some kind of gimmick to it, or I just need to go do everything else first and then come back to you later. I don't
I
know.
I gimmick so much as I think that the scaling scales exponentially, and I don't know if it's like I haven't found enough of the upgrade stones that upgrade your weapons to, whatever the max is. Which is kind of what I think it is just that like weapons scale exponentially, therefore you hit a point where doing 10,000 damage is easy, and then the
Mhm.
next jump from that is it goes from like 10,000 to 20,000 with like one level upgrade kind of thing. That's kind of what I suspect it is, and I just need to find more of the weapon upgrades and then upgrade my weapons and then go do some of these side areas where it will probably be even easier to get more upgraded materials. And I think that's how it probably works, but it's hard to like it's hard to bridge that gap, and specifically it's hard to know where to go to bridge that gap. So I've started doing some of those areas, and then I went back to like an early game area and found it was like significantly too easy, and I must have just missed it. So it's kind of like just the world exploration portion of it is a little bit
Mhm.
challenging.
Yeah, getting a little robo, but, yeah, because
Did
I know,
you
like, there were some, like, side areas I skipped, like, there's, like, a one elemental in, like, the one of the very first areas, like, the first zone that had the first mime, like, I went back to it later and, like, killed him pretty quick, but he was like, a side boss. But even if, like, you end up breaking the damage limit, I feel like it still comes down to the damage you take. I'm like, unless they
Mhm.
expect me to, you know, get like, I don't mind if there's a boss where, like, the gimmick is just perfect parry or dodge, like, and you can take maybe like on hard, like one hit or something. As long as they don't
Mhm.
kill someone with the revive or I got enough revive tints, it's like, okay, maybe. And then it's more like which is kind of how a lot of fights are in on hard anyways, like to where it's just manageable, like the duelist, which I really liked, or even the one Axon that I beat, which are the mask ones, like I I'm really curious how that fight too, by the way, goes if you don't destroy the masks on the side paths. Because I just took the side paths. I'm like, okay, we're fighting all these masks, and then like they're
Yeah, I
not there
wanna
in phase
know
two.
what it does with those. I wanna know what the
Yeah,
attacks are.
because he says it's the hardest, and I was like, well, I did it in three. It took me three tries because I the first one was learning the phase one. Then in the second time I fought it, it was oh shit, there's a phase two. Now I got to see and learn about phase two, and then like going back to phase. Luckily, phase one's like once you know the mass, it's like okay, and he does a sound effect or they do a sound effect where it's like it gives away when you dodge and whatnot.
Mhm.
Although at that 4 swipe attack, it's actually 5 swipe, but, like, where it's, like, the 2 swipes and then the 2 other swipes that have the debris, and the debris is what you have to parry. Like, there's a delay then, and I'm like, those I wouldn't always get those perfect, but those would I'd be like, "Man, there's, like, a slight delay on this one because it's not the hit, you're parrying the debris." And
They
I'm like
also don't have sound cues like a lot of his other attacks do. The like rock debris ones, for some reason, don't have a sound cue associated with them, which threw me off the first time.
Yeah, those are fine because like, if they're actually moving, he moves slow enough where it's like, okay, the parry's easy. It's the ones where it's like, oh, he's gonna do some weird blast, and you have to
Mhm.
dodge the blast or whatever. It's like where it's like he gets health pack, or he, like, exhausts you or something like those ones, like, I need a sound cue because 'cause I'll mess those up. Like, the shield guys always have like, oh, he's gonna counterattack, and it's like, they charge up, and then blast, and I'm like, "Okay, well, at least they got a 1, 2 dodge." They got, like, a timer on it and nice little, rhythm to it, but yeah, there's, with those guys, at least he's got such big, long swings, like, "Okay, I see it coming." He's not doing that slow wind up, like all the Instagram reels that are like the slow wind up, yeah,
I
playing Clair
cannot
Obscur. Yeah.
stand the slow wind up, and it's just like and sometimes they'll do the slow wind up, but they'll kinda, like, move while they're doing it, and you're like, ah, is it no, okay, never mind, I
Dude,
got hit, never mind."
that one mask where the main enemy that you have to kill is a floating guy where he shoots, like, the hats up into the air and they fall
Mhm.
down, like, when the hat came down, like, I parried it once with Minoko, and then every other time I tried to parry it, I couldn't time it, and I'm like, "How am I messing this up?" Like, I was like, "It looks so easy because the hat's just slowly falling down, and I just parry the hat," but I couldn't get it. I got it once and then never again, and I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna dodge these." But yeah, they're, I started that whole area, I started doing to where, okay, I'm just gonna run a party of 2 because I also wanted to level up Sael and Minoko a little bit more because they were, like, 2 levels behind everybody else. I'm like, "Okay, I'll just start the fight with these 2 because then I can always get the skills from Minoko if an enemy has a skill I can learn, and then if they die, then I just have my main 3 that I run with." And I did, like, the whole thing. I did start the big boss fight that way, which is I was like, okay, immediately after the first death, I'm like, I switched back. I'm like, nope, I'm just gonna do main 3, and then they will be my backup. And then I didn't need them at all, and the third time I did it. But, yeah, luckily, I'm glad it's like well, not to say that that second phase boss does have a bit where he extends all his attacks with additional attacks, which throws me off every time that boss does that. It's like, "Oh, now I'm gonna do it, 3 hits longer." I'm like, "Oh, no."
Right.
Like, I perfect the
An
first
attack
bit.
comes in and you're like, "I got this, I know this one," and then he just keeps attacking, you're like, "Okay, fuck off."
Yeah. It's like it hits you like, a lot of times, like, when you fight, like, the big, Bergions or whatever, it's like, "Oh, they're doing a 4-hit combo, a 5-hit combo, a 6-hit combo." And these guys are like, "They're attacking many times." Like, the fuck does that mean? And they're like, 9 swipes. I'm like, "Oh my god." They're usually pretty quick. Because he has that one too where it's like, it's one of the attacks where he hits big weapon and then little weapon, like, really quick succession, and you gotta, like, double tap to parry it. But yeah, it's like some of those enemies in that zone were just really obnoxious. That one, like, puppet that would, like, arch on its back to crab walk attack you, like, fight that way.
Hate
And
that.
yeah, they would, like there's that one where, like, okay, I can get down it was like a 4 swipe hit. It was like swipe, swipe, and then do a jump attack, and then every time they did the animation to flip back onto their back, I always think that's another attack, and I'd always try to parry it, but it never is, but I
I
always
do
thought it was
too.
attack. It's like, you're just trying to be it's like someone who's gotta flinch anytime someone raises their hand. It's like you're just scared they're gonna hit you. Okay, they're not attacking at the end. But man, I was bummed too that like all the eyeballs in the wall, like like there was one outside the mask, and I could shoot the one, but not the other. I was like, oh, this would be fun if this is like a secret mechanic. Because then later I found that beach, or actually it was earlier technically, where I found that beach where it's like danger zone, and I'm like, oh look, you got all the Odin ravens, and I just started shooting them all, and then
Mhm.
I was about to leave because I couldn't find anything else there, and then I saw, like, 3 more. It's like, "Okay, let's shoot the last 3," and then they summon the scarecrow guy. I'm like, "Okay, here's the danger boss of the zone," and then he, of course, one-shots you, and you barely do damage, and I'm like, "Alright, I'll come back to this fucking later." But I like how there's like, "Oh, here you go. Here's God of War 2018. Go ahead and trigger the boss fight." Like,
Mhm.
a fun, like, "You're giving me the red indicator to shoot these things." I like that. No, this clearly means something. But yeah, I'm looking for I'll probably play probably stream tonight if I can end up watching Tlu before, if I can I forget I don't know what time it goes live because I always watch it when the React channel puts it up. And then tomorrow I have it off and, I'm debating whether or not I'm gonna stream Clair Obscur from, like, 8:30 to 3 o'clock or something, maybe till, like, 5 from 8 to 5, and then again at night and just play Clair Obscur all day tomorrow. Or I got in the ultimate starter set for Warhammer, and I was like, "Ooh, I can put together a bunch of these Tyranids and then have those all together." But maybe I'll do like a split, like do a stream for a couple hours, take a break, do that, and stream later for a couple hours. But kind of debating which one I want to do. Probably just play the games that way I can make some nice progress, catch up to you two, since you're probably
I don't
gonna
think
beat
we're
it.
that far ahead of you. Well, I don't know. I feel like I'm at a point where I can start doing some of the like world content and
Yeah,
figuring it out. So
Yeah,
I've been trying to do that, but maybe.
yeah,
that's
yeah. Because it's like
basically what I did for most of yesterday is I just went around looking for world content that I can do now.
Yeah. It's funny because like, even if I wasn't streaming this game, it'd be hard to play off stream because you have to focus and parry and dodge. I'm like, "There's no way I'm gonna be able to do it with my kid in my lap." When he's like, "Alright, I'm done with this video. I wanna watch a different video." Then I'm like, "Hold on, bud." He's, like, reaching over, trying to grab the mouse or touch my arm, like, "Stop it, stop it." And I'm like, gotta parry and shit. Like, he would just get me killed. I'm like, "This isn't a standard" like, Baldur's Gate, easy. I can do that just fine. But, because it's just a mouse game. But it's like, this is, like, active turn-based. I'm like, "No way. I can't do that." But yeah, hopefully I think I'll just play a bunch of it tomorrow for like 8 hours, and then at night. But yeah, because I really wanna put together that Warhammer stuff, and I'm like, I also really wanna play some more because I didn't play it last night, so I'm like, I guess I gotta catch up. I gotta get more in there, especially if there's like side stuff. I wanna make sure I don't because it's so frustrating when it's like, okay, I know there's side things I can do or explore, but I don't want to spend a whole stream just 2 hours of running around looking at shit. Like, I wanna
Mhm.
make progress. It's like having a deadline for a review. It's like, can't do too much of the side stuff, gotta focus on the story.
I will at least say from some of the side stuff I have been able to complete that it's all been interesting and worthwhile. And
Oh, for
Mhm.
sure.
it
I bet.
I'll add a second like little complaint about the game, similar to like the loadouts, which is that the side stuff seems actually relevant to the story and the world and abilities and weapons. Like it almost isn't side content. It's almost like stuff you really should be doing to get the full experience of the game. And the fact that it's locked until so late in the game is weird to me. It feels like they should have maybe spaced it out a bit more or had some that you could do like a bit earlier because like finding the expedition journals and learning more about the story actually seems important.
Man, I hope that and maybe it's not because but I'm hoping that, like, once you pierce the veil, clearly no one has done that based
Mhm.
on what Verse was saying. I'm like, I would love it if, like, as part of the game, it's like, getting lost in the blizzard in FF7 and putting down the flags. Like, let me put down flags in a zone to be like, here's where I'm putting down my flag because we're the first expedition here, so we're gonna put down 33. Like, I wanna put down our own flag somewhere. Like, let me do that. Let me make custom checkpoints that fits the story and the narrative of we would clearly do this, like, as part of the extra
Mhm.
because everybody else is doing it, and I'm hoping that's something that comes into play later. Because 'cause I'm like, if we're at a place for the first time, there's not gonna be any fucking flags, right? So how are we gonna go find a flag to rest at? Like, we have to put down our own, like, that makes sense, but, no, I'm sorry, man, I gotta and as former Ubisoft folks too, like, y'all gotta put map markers in the game, dude. I wanna be able to put down custom markers so bad. And to be like, "Boss," like, just give me the Elden Ring skull for the markers and just be like, "Boss here, boss here, boss here." So I know where all these I remember where all these damn side bosses are to go
I
back
have a
to later.
notebook.
Oh my god, there are so many bosses in the game and I'm like I feel like I just need to go over this is why I'm doing world content right now is I genuinely feel like I need to go over the entire world map because I feel like every area has like 30 bosses or not 30, maybe like a dozen bosses or zones that I couldn't go in. And I'm like, okay, I don't remember what any of those were, so I need to go back through every single one of them.
I
Yeah.
made a
I need
checklist
to
as I went.
what I was doing, I was, like, just taking screenshots of the map. I'm like, "I just need to clear the shroud and then take a picture of the map," and I'm sure I don't maybe IGN has one up now, but, like, I like, if they don't by the time I clear the shroud, is, like, I'll just take if they don't have, like, an interactive map, is I'll just take a screenshot and then just, like, draw, like, put a little B for boss, just be like, "Boss, boss, boss, boss." Just write them all down, that way at least I have my own map so I can keep track of, but I'm hoping that they have an interactive map. Maybe they do. Let's see. IGN Clair Obscur interactive map. Now available. Well, that's actually from a while back. Maybe I just missed it. I'm gonna click on this and see how non-spoiler I can get it. They do lock their checklist off behind joining their IGN Plus or whatever it is. I'll have to see how if I can whittle it down because like when I missed that was like the what I liked about like the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree. I was like, okay, I think I have all of the scat tree upgrades, but like I'd have to go back to like Fextra Life had an interactive map, and I'd see like okay, I try to like look at it and be like, okay, I know I got this one, I know I got this one, I know I got this one, and then I just have to run back and see like, did I get the ones that are here? Because I know I got some in this castle, and then it's like, nope, I'm still missing some, and then it's like, okay, use the interactive map to get there. So that's nice. So I'll just have to keep this for like,
I feel
hopefully they
like that
tag.
map is going to spoil shit for you.
That's why I'm
I'm just going
hoping
to
that
throw it out there.
what's
Yeah.
nice about the Fextra Life one is that you can check what you want, and usually what I'll do is I'll like when I loaded it up for Elden Ring, is I just like there's so much shit on it that you can't get spoiled in anything, so I would just uncheck everything and only click on like scat tree fragments, and then that was it.
Just
Um,
knowing where I'm at in the story, I would maybe recommend not looking at a map.
Why I'm not gonna do it. Yeah, I'm not gonna do it now, but I want later. I want to be like, okay, if they have one, this is gonna be a great like. That's why I'm curious. You know what? Let me look up.
I think later you could. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't do that now if I were you.
Yeah. I'm not. I was just trying to see if it would load at all, but it's not loading at all. So whatever. But yeah, because I know they have like, okay, they do have optional bosses listed. Okay, good. So I could click that and whatnot. And if I cared about Lost Gestrels, I could do those. But yeah,
You're
I'm not
not
gonna
gonna
look up like,
save the babies?
well, if I find them naturally, I'll save them because
Save
there's
the
so many lost.
babies. I think I'm
There's
only
so many.
missing 2 at this point, but yeah. Save the
But
Yeah,
as
we'll
babies.
they
see.
said, they're not really lost. They even say that. They're like, I'm not really lost.
Well, they're
Just
just babies
exploring.
and they're embarrassed. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not
they
lost.
don't want to
You
admit.
look lost
Yeah,
to me.
kids don't want to admit that they're lost. Like me, or like the stereotype of dudes not want to look at the map, right? I'm not lost, babe.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's I just wish there were map markers, man. Like, just give me some markers, dude. Like, please. But but yeah, otherwise, yeah, it's a really good game. I'm looking forward to playing more of it. It is a fun time. I'm glad it's like I said, seeing the achievement percentage. You'll have to look at the trophy percentage as you get further along, easily, and like kind of keep track of like the big story trophies and like keep note of the percentage of how many people got it. Because like I'm watching that on Steam. Because I'm just curious, like you want people to play through, and when I think about the average retention rate for most players on single player games, like it's not that high. But yeah, great game. I wish we could have talked more, but you guys are further than me. So hopefully, like I said, we'll probably beat it or at least be at a point where we're all doing cleanup next time.
I
And then,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
hard because I wanted to talk about a theory that I had on this
but it
podcast, but
but it revolves around knowing the next couple fights or story stuff.
no, my theory was based on where you're at in the game. That's when I
Okay.
had the theory, but I've gotten further enough that I now know whether my theory was true or false. So I can't
Okay.
even
So
voice on it because it's like
can well, I was going to actually ask you that, and you reminded me because I was going to say, because you asked me like, what are my theories? Did you have any early ideas or thoughts about what stuff could be that you found out either like turned out to
I
be
won't
false or
tell
true without
you.
saying what they are?
I won't tell you. Yeah, I've learned whether some of my stuff was
Yeah.
false or true, and I this isn't really spoiler, but I will say like one of the early game theories I had. Um, Actually, I shouldn't really mention any of them because I might misspeak. I've gotten some answers to my theories.
Okay, but like, have you been right in some cases at least, like for substantial ones, not like just like small itty bitty things. Not that theories are necessarily
Um,
minutia, but do you feel like you've had some like significant, like, wow, I did call this one
I
thing like pretty well.
I feel like I've called parts of it. I called my recent theory with where you're at in the game. I was correct on, and figured out, and then others I've been like I've had like 50% of it correct, which I would say is good storytelling. Like they drop enough breadcrumbs that you think you know what's going on, and you're like
Mhm.
close-ish.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I've felt. Is they've done basically the non-spoiler thing is like I think they've done a really good job laying breadcrumbs so that you feel a sense of reward when the story progresses,
Yeah.
but also so that it's not so like wild that you basically go, "Holy shit!" Like
Mhm.
I haven't had any moments yet that made me rage to the extent of like this is an ass pull kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, obviously, it'd be fun to do is, like, one thing that I like that MinMax does is they'll make, like, in the start of the year, they'll do, like, predictions for the new year, and then at the end of the year, they go back and listen to those gaming specific predictions and see, like, how close they were. It'd be like, "Oh, the Switch 2 will be announced," or, "There'll be a sequel to this," or, "Microsoft will make this decision." It'd be fun if, like, in hindsight, if we had, like, gone back and had a section of, like, once we first started to be, "Okay, what are your predictions?" And then, like, maybe deafen and then say it, and then, like, we each go through our predictions, that way we don't necessarily hear them, but then we can go back to them later when we beat the game and, like, listen to those predictions that we each made that we didn't hear. That way it's not like because the one thing about making predictions early on is, like, you're like, "Oh, I," like, the people think that it's Gustav is, the old man early on. It's like hearing that, and it's like, okay, if things started to point that way, it's like, okay, well, now that's in my head because someone else did it, I didn't come to it naturally. So to make, like, blind predictions essentially would be fun to do, and then listen to them live on the podcast would be hilarious to be like, Isley's prediction was, and then it's like, you're like, I think, this would happen. And it's like, if it's completely wrong, it's funny, but if it's completely right, you're like, damn, you got it. Like,
I
that would be
haven't been
fun too.
like I don't think there's been any where I've been like so wildly off that it kind of made me laugh, but I don't
I just
think
think it'd be
with the
fun.
exception of like one or two, I haven't really gotten any 100% correct.
Yeah.
Which is kind of how I would hope a story would go. Like I would never want to be able to predict 100% of the story accurately from the get-go, otherwise, why play to experience it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I was on the cast last week talking about the Act 1 reveal and stuff and even just the prologue because I feel like even the prologue just throws so many mysteries at you right away that it really just grasps you in a way that I can't recall a game doing recently.
Mhm.
Yeah. I like it. Definitely has a strong start, which is like, you're just in it. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
I
it's
love
the
that.
gomage time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like Sophie the Gomage and then immediately going into a war in Renoir, you're just like, what the fuck is even happening?
Yeah. The trash can man, the people having sex in their apartment. Like, stop listening to us. It's like, okay, sorry. I didn't find it, but I found it out, like, someone else posted
The sex
on
one, I thought that was funny
yeah.
because when you're walking through, God, who's introducing you? But you get the narration of like some people prefer to prepare for the Gomage in a different way, and then you have the like sex part.
Yeah. Gotta finish before you get gomaged, right?
Mhm.
You're like, "Oh, damn it."
One for the road.
Die die unfulfilled, poor lady, but, you got there, right? Yeah, don't wanna happen to disappointed, but, yeah, do what you wanna do. Nothing, no wrong answer. But yeah, I look forward to playing. I hope, like I said, it'll be at least when we talk next week, even if someone beats it, but, someone's don't, I'll be caught up to where now we can talk about more stuff after, the Axons and the stuff after them. Because I feel like that'll be fun. Because once they're dead and we pierce the veil, it's like, okay, this is all new territory, even for, Verso. It's like, it's all new. It's like, so it should be interesting because then anything can happen. I wish he would tell more stories. Like, I like when he finally talks about the stories of him with the other expeditions and then, like, being
Mhm.
betrayed, but I wish there was, like, just a little bit more. I'm curious what it'd be
I
like to romance
I
Like,
romance Loon.
okay, you wanna start? Yeah, it was funny because out of nowhere, it was just, like, with,
I
Sael,
did
she's
it
like,
accidentally, but yeah.
yeah. It's like when I romanced, Shadowheart. It was totally by accident. It's like the first playthrough, I was like, "Okay, let's do it."
To be to be honest, it was pretty similar to the CL one where it was like they basically just go like they go off in the woods together. They come
Yeah.
back and CL has a knowing smile, and that's like the extent of it.
Yeah, I watched IGN posted, like, a how to romance this person, that person. I'm like, "Oh, well, since I already did one, I'm just curious," like, "Oh, it's just when you get to that point in the friendship, like, nothing special it's not like, Final Fantasy VII or something like that where you have to do, like,
Yeah.
specific things and get their friend you
Mhm.
do get the friendship meters up in that game for the golden saucer stuff, but, I mean, it's not like, oh, you can't really miss it unless you just don't talk to them like I missed out on doing early, but you just spam it, and it's like, "Hey, you wanna do it? Okay, sure."
So you mentioned like wanting to hear more from Verso, and I haven't found this yet, but what I'm curious about is like I want to find. He's mentioned that he's traveled with like other expeditions. I want to find those expeditions journals because I feel like it's going to be a missed opportunity if those expeditions don't mention traveling with him. Like that'd
Yeah,
be
'cause there's
so
only the
weird if
one.
they.
That's what I was gonna say, yeah.
Well, is it one or is it? I thought he traveled with like 2 or
Well,
3.
we only find the one because Lune finds it and like, "Oh my god," and you don't get to hear it until after, and that's how you get the
Oh,
revelation that
yeah,
he's the
but
son and yada yada.
Verso mentions that he's traveled
Right,
with
right.
a few expeditions, and I just
Yeah.
think it would be so strange if an expedition journal didn't say like, "Hey, we found this guy from Expedition 0 that's still alive somehow. That's weird, right?" Like, they're I'm really, really hoping they exist.
It's gotta be crazy too, like, when he talks about that too, like, we were Expedition Zero and we go back to help rebuild, and it's like, because there were obviously people living in old Lumiere when it was
Right.
there,
Okay,
but
so
and then just seeing numbers go down on a giant, monolith and not knowing, so when that first Gomage happens, I'm like, "What the hell?" 'Cause he
there's
won't know for a couple years.
okay, so there is part of me that I am really confused by this. Of I feel like this is another one of those games that could just be called like everyone needs therapy. But Verso mentions he goes back to old Lumiere to help rebuild, or to Lumiere to help rebuild. So why aren't there records in Lumiere that say like Expedition Zero came back and helped rebuild and told
They
us all of
do.
these things?
Well, they talk about Expedition
They don't.
Zero coming back. They said they were the only ones to ever come back,
Do
right?
Mhm.
they
Isn't
say
that
that?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
Gustav mentions that because Gustav is the one that, like, knows everything about all the expeditions.
yeah, because
Okay.
I think they quizzed them maybe or like it was person, but yeah, they're the only one to ever come back because it wasn't like they weren't sent off to try to stop the Gomage. It's like, what the hell happened? And like it's just
Mhm.
after the event, right? So it's like, okay. And then they come back and then, you know, the
I was just
immortality
like,
bit probably wouldn't come into play like
that's fair.
realization until Gomage started happening. So it's just
I was
like
just like,
and he talked about his hair gray.
why wouldn't they mention them coming back? But I guess he did, and I just forgot. Rip
Yeah,
Gustav.
there could be like records, I'm sure, but yeah, they don't. They only mentioned that one bit, and then yeah, it's not like and I guess it stopped so long ago that it's kind of like just you know, it's not like they kept doing it. They're just like, okay, we're done. They did it a couple times, and
Now
then they
I can buy that they weren't going after the painters at that point because
yeah,
they weren't sending 100-year-olds, therefore,
right, yeah,
didn't
who knows? So
know about the Gomage. I would love
yeah,
that's the other thing is like I would love to find an expedition journal that talks about when they first discovered the Gomage was happening because you have to imagine for the first like I don't know how many years, but for the first 20 years maybe or something like that that they wouldn't necessarily understand what was going on. I'm sure
right.
that, someone got Gomaged at like 82 or something, but it certainly doesn't give the impression of like the world being huge.
Well, isn't
So
the first expedition like 89 or something like that, or 80, like one of the 80s? Like, so it's got to
it's
be
one-
like
it's one of the 80s, but I haven't found that journal to know if they know that that's the Gomage or
but
not.
that's gotta be, like, when they start, like, because why would you have an expedition, like, you would just have everybody out there and be like, "Oh, shit," you realize, like, maybe the high 80s people start going, and then you start putting together, like, "Okay, we gotta figure out what's going we can now we've enough
Right.
cycles have gone by that we notice that when she paints that number, people go turn into petals."
Yeah, fully agree. I hope the expedition journal mentions like, oh, we're the first expedition since the Gomage was discovered, or like some
Yeah.
acknowledgement of that would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, somewhere. Yeah, because there's clearly you're gonna be able to collect, like, all of them plus the mystery ones. Man, the Mario 64 painting in the manor, like, I just randomly found with the I'm assuming must be dev dogs.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, "Okay, these must be dev dogs." And I was like, I thought
The
'cause
the deaf dog is Monaco.
the dev dog is Monaco.
One of
Monaco's the
the
dev dog?
Yeah, the Monaco, they named him after one of the studio's dogs.
Oh, okay, okay, his name. The way you said, "The dev dog
No,
is Monaco." I
no,
was like,
sorry,
"He's
I
not a
meant like
dog."
I
It's
meant
like
yeah,
yeah, a name.
Monaco, the name was
Yeah.
in character to an extent was based off of one of their dogs.
Yeah, because I was jumping around the manor because the jump animation is so funny in the game, and, I jumped into a painting and, like but it didn't go all the way through, like because the way I was running as Mael, and, I thought I glitched in the wall because it didn't progress. I was like, "Oh, no." And then, like because I tried to rotate the camera down that, and I'm like I jumped out of it, and I jumped back into it, and it's like, "Oh, it's a secret room." And then I started, like, trying to jump through, like, all the paintings, but I can't find any more currently, but I was like, "Oh, I guess we're at Mario 64 now." But yeah. Anyway, good stuff. We haven't run long talking a lot about Clair Obscur.
Good fucking game.
I'm sure we'll talk more about it next time.
Really good fucking game.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Izzy. Thank you, Zaya, for joining.
Yep.
Mhm.
See y'all next time.
Later.
Bye.